If you've interviewed over and over and over again for the same flight agency, you're trying to get into law enforcement or fire, EMS, a TEMS team, you name it, this video might be for you. My name's Sam, and welcome to Prep Medic. Obviously, this entire video is just my opinion formed over a little bit more than a decade of EMS, law enforcement, and fire experience. So you can take it all with a grain of salt, agree, disagree, leave them in the comments down below, and let's get into the video. So the first reason why I see people fail at getting into a public safety role is that they are too obsessed. Now, we have probably all met this person. There's probably people that follow me on this platform that kind of fit this mold. And I don't want anybody to take offense to this. This is not a talking bad about somebody's character. This isn't saying you can't improve or change things. This is just a misconception I see and kind of the wrong path to go down, in my opinion. And that is being too obsessed with whatever niche of public safety you want to get into. This is the person that wants to be a cop and buys a Crown Vic and blouses their pants and, is a security guard. And that is their entire personality. They have nothing outside of wanting to be a cop. You've got a future cop in your bio, in your Instagram page, and everything revolves around that. Now, there is nothing wrong about being passionate of where you want to go. There's nothing wrong with getting experience in the security industry or, for firefighters, volunteering at a small fire department, but it cannot be your whole self. Now, the reason these obsessed individuals have a hard time in interviews probably varies agency to agency, interviewer to interviewer. For me, when I'm interviewing somebody and it becomes apparent that whatever they're interviewing for is their entire life, it's a red flag because I know that if the job's everything, and they lose it, let's say they get fired for something silly they do on the job, or they get injured and can't do it anymore, or they get like PTSD and decide it's not for them, they will struggle really, really bad outside of that because work was their entire life. They had nothing outside of that. Now you take that away, and what is left? So that's a huge red flag, and that's more so the interviewer protecting the interviewee than just denying them a job because they find them annoying or anything like that. It's not like that at all. It's this person will not be successful in the long term because they will burn themselves out. They will work way too much, and it's just not healthy to do that for a career that could span 30, 40, even 50 years, depending on how young you are when you get into it. So what I like to look for instead is somebody that is well-rounded. I do want to see that they have pursued things to set them up for success in the career. In EMS, it is cool to see somebody being, a lifeguard before this, having certain certifications, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Ultimately, though, I want to see somebody that has cool hobbies outside of work. Maybe they're not hobbies I think are cool, but there's something that gives them joy outside of work. Do they like to hike, ski, craft things? Are they really good at video games? Something that brings them happiness that is not public safety is a big thing I'm looking for. In addition to that, I truly believe that a lot of hobbies and these little extracurriculars can really help you in the job. For me, I've got some videography skill. Obviously I'm not perfect. I'm still an amateur, but that helps me at work, create little promotional things or, help make training videos. Somebody that might climb a mountain. I've got a coworker that was a professional climber and he's on our SORT team. He can bring that skill in there and do rope stuff with us. The sky's really the limit. So well-rounded is key. Don't just be the person that is totally obsessed with one aspect of public safety and you can't see anything outside of that. The next thing is, and it's very similar to what we just talked about, is the cert collector. This is the person that has interviewed, 5, 10, 15 times with an agency trying to get on with them. And once again, this can be law enforcement, fire, or EMS, even like the military, I think. This is the person that has failed those interviews and goes home and focuses on the wrong thing, in my opinion. They go and they get another certification. They take another class. And while you do need to meet minimum requirements, and it's good to exceed those in certain areas, or if you think it's going to go in that direction, that can show initiative. We're not looking for a huge alphabet soup in front of you that wasn't even required for the job. After all, there are tons of people that get hired on fire departments and police departments that meet the minimum requirements. They have their high school diploma and they don't have a criminal record and they've got a driver's license and CPR. A lot of times that's all that it takes to get into these agencies. And the person that has, Fire 1, Fire 2, all of these other things isn't even getting their foot in the door because they're not interviewing well. Once again, we're going to get to that in a second. So cert collecting is not the answer. Meet the minimum requirements, exceed them where it makes sense, but don't think that you didn't get the job because you didn't have this training that you paid out of pocket. That is not the answer, and that is not what these employers are looking to see. If you are someone that has interviewed time and time again with the same agency and you still haven't gotten in, it is probably not a resume issue. It's probably a personality or an interview issue. Practice your interviews, know how to do those. Understand that you need to be a good fit for the department to bring you in. A lot of these guys sitting on fire panels, EMS panels, they're looking for personality. They do not care what your resume says for the most part, so long as there's not felony charges or anything egregious like that, and as long as you meet the minimum requirements. Last but certainly not least, and I think the thing that keeps people out of public safety the most, or out of at least progressing within the community, is somebody that has a label on them, whether that's deserved or not. And there's a lot of nuance here, and I want you to understand that before we get into it. A lot of times this comes in the form of a known bad attitude or a toxic individual. For our base in the flight community, we have very, very tight-knit groups. And what we are looking for above everything is somebody that is going to fit in with the team. Somebody can be the best clinician ever, be a freaking savant. And if they are known as a toxic individual, we are probably not going to hire him in our group because that can absolutely destroy dynamics and bring down morale across the board. You have to understand public safety is an incredibly small group of people. There are not a lot of EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, flight paramedics, flight nurses, anything in public safety. There are not a lot of them. It's a small community. I guarantee you that there is maybe 1 to 2 degrees of connection between every single one in the United States. I do not have to ask far to get the details on any individual. So while you're sending in your application, names pop up and those come in and people start asking around like, hey, I saw this person applied. They're from your agency. What do you think about them? And all it takes is somebody somewhere else to be like, oh yeah, I saw, Jeremy applied for your base. They're a good medic, but man, they can be grouchy. And that person is probably going to get thrown off the list. Now, I'm not saying that this is like the agency's doing it. This is the official background checks, but like people ask around, people talk, and that really skews the perception when you walk in the door, and it will completely obliterate your chances before anything goes beyond that. So don't screw yourself over. We see this a ton with EMS personnel trying to go to fire departments. They are on the ambulance, they're running calls, they might be a great provider, and they're running alongside the fire department a lot of times. Now, they go in and they come in, they've got like a rumpled shirt, they've got their hat on backwards, they don't really care because the agency doesn't really care, their boots are unzipped, you name it. Those firefighters see that, and when you come into that interview room with the fire department, they know that this person did not present themselves well in this instance. They do not think it's cool that you have a grouchy attitude and are super salty on scene. They do not think that that is somebody that's going to fit in with them. They want somebody that has a good attitude, that's there to work, that's going to get through their probationary period and their academy. So don't burn your bridges before you get there. Similarly, when you leave an agency, I don't care how bad it was, I don't care how bad they treated you, unless it is a legal issue, unless it is something that you are like taking to court and something is going on, there is no reason to burn a bridge. Do not rage quit, even though it might feel really good and even though you really want to do it. Do not say the nasty thing to your boss as you're walking out the door. Don't destroy the office, because that will follow you. So you have to be able to kind of maintain your image through really bad situations. And some of this is just being an adult. You can't lose your temper. You have to understand that you control your own reactions, and no matter what somebody does to you, you have your own reactions. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but you have to control kind of your own narrative moving forward. So those are in my opinion, the 4 things that really keep people back in this profession. Like I said, we see people interview over and over and over again. And I guarantee you, if you kind of look at this list and you start working on yourself, you can make it into a public safety organization, whatever that is, whether that's police, fire, or EMS. With all of that being said, I look forward to seeing you next week.